We're citing the New York Times that Elizabeth Warren has now decided to officially drop out of the race for Democratic presidential nominee.
And then there were two, Senator Bernie Sanders and, of course, former Vice President Joe Biden. Senator Elizabeth Warren really ascended onto the Democratic scene during a political upset of sorts when she defeated Scott Brown in a contentious race in Massachusetts. But she, of course, has Senator Ted Kennedy's seat in the Senate. She is a progressive voice in the Senate, someone who created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And now the biggest question mark becomes, who will she endorse? Will it be Biden? And will that further illustrate that Biden is unifying all different factions of the Democratic Party? Or will she choose someone who she, quite frankly, is more ideologically akin to in Senator Sanders? It would also, if she were to go the Sanders route, inject some new momentum potentially into Sanders' presidential campaign. But I'm struck by this, and if you're looking at Senator Elizabeth Warren's political apparatus, she has deep ties to progressive groups such as MoveOn.org, as well as the Progressive Change for Campaign Committee, a host of different political organizations. She, with that, whoever she endorses, passes along grassroots movement. And beyond that, I would just note, if you look at polling numbers, many of her supporters are divided. So many of them are supporters of both Sanders and Biden and other candidates before they had dropped out. So it's not necessarily a monolithic movement that is similar to Bernie Sanders in the sense that her supporters are more divided.
And of course, there's a whole...
Why would she support Biden, Kevin? Why would she go down that road?
Well, I mean, it's a great question, and it's one that I've been putting to people in her world as well as Democratic strategists over the last day, Guy. And again, we don't know who she's going to endorse as of now. But by not choosing to endorse now, she's drumming up, trying to create a bigger moment for when she does ultimately decide to endorse. If she were to go the Biden route, to answer your question directly, Guy, it would be because one could interpret it as she would have a voice in a Biden administration, whether that's in an administration post or whether that's in a different type of post. Remember that it was she was named to be in Democratic leadership by Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, and that was at a time when she was butting heads with then Vice President Biden and President Obama over financial regulations, and the Democratic leadership saw and understood that you had to include her in those conversations because, you know, the progressive base is where she's at. It was really the first step. It mirrored what Speaker Pelosi did with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
The New York Times report says as well, Kevin, that it was a Democratic field that began with a record number of female candidates, and now there are none, right? There are none left in this. Bernie Sanders is on record as suggesting that people in his corner and just in general, the voting public in the United States want diversity. Is there any chance in the world that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren will put away whatever differences they have between them and ride together on a single ticket? He is on record as suggesting that, you know, both sides have each other's phone numbers.
Well, Vonnie, I mean, they're very good friends. And that isn't just political jargon. I mean, they have a deep history together. Their staffs are very intertwined. I can tell you based upon my own reporting. Beyond that, I would also note that the Sanders campaign, to your point, Bonnie, actually floated this idea of naming her as a vice presidential candidate and having her be Treasury Secretary at the same time. They were having lawyers look into whether or not the vice president could be Treasury Secretary, which, so, I mean, you know, stranger things that happen in politics. We saw how Klobuchar and Buttigieg backed Biden after duking it out on the debate stage. So, you know, I wouldn't say that, you know, that Sanders and Warren were as tense. There was that 1 week span where they were pretty tense, but even shortly after that, they were walking together.